Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds. That is the motto of our Postal Service, and now more than ever, we see it in action. As millions of people stay home, postal workers continue delivering our mail, despite threat of illness, to make sure that we get what we need. The Postal Service is not only one of the largest civilian employers in the country, but it employs critical groups of people in our population. 18% of the people who work for the Postal Service are veterans. 39% are minorities. USPS is not only woven into the fabric of this country, it is actually older than the nation itself. Now, despite that, the president recently took aim at the United States Postal Service.
If they don't raise the price, I'm not signing anything. So they'll raise the price so that they become maybe even profitable, but so they lose much less money. Okay? And if they don't do it, I'm not signing anything, and I'm not authorizing you to do anything.
It's not the first time the president has voiced concerns with the USPS. It's become a target in his clashes with Amazon's Jeff Bezos, who also happens to own the Washington Post, which Trump hates. And while many of Trump's criticisms are unfounded, as with much criticism, there is always room for improvement. The Postal Service follows a mandate to provide the same affordable mail service all over the country while remaining self-funded. But it has struggled to keep up with UPS, FedEx, and, of course, Amazon, which uses both of those private competitors to the Postal Service. And USPS has at times lacked innovation to keep up with changing times. The current pandemic has only exacerbated these problems, and without financial assistance, this 250-year-old institution that was once run by Benjamin Franklin may not make it through the summer. And yet, Trump refuses to help. USPS employees are the people we see every day. They bring us our birthday cards, college acceptance letters, packages, absentee ballots, and most recently, our relief checks. Every small town has a post office, but not every small town has a FedEx or a UPS. It's important for us to support the U.S. Postal Service, to tell our leaders that it's critical for this institution to keep going as it has through war times, previous pandemics, and natural disasters. The U.S. Postal Service is not just mail-in packages. It is a group of civil servants, people who've dedicated their lives to their work. They are essential to keep us going, essential in moments like this pandemic when we long to be connected with those far away from us. We can work to fix its problems, but first, we need to help it survive.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.